Right, I'm delighted to be joined today by British boxing legend Billy Nelson. How are you, mate?
I'm fine, thank you. Cheers.
First off, Billy, I just thought I would ask you about your thoughts about the boxing last night with Tony Yoka back in action after his first defeat to your fighter, Martin Bakole.
Uh, it's quite apparent. I think Martin's done him some psychological damage. That wasn't a performance of an Olympic gold medalist last night, and it seems that he's went back away. They just didn't seem to want to commit to throwing these punches. I was quite very disappointed in him, and really he should be stopping Takam. I mean, if Martin Bakole fought Takam, it'd be over in 5 rounds.
Yeah. Is that a possible fight that you might have looked for next for Bakole, with everybody avoiding him?
Anybody's possible. Anybody's possible. We're in a position now where anybody could be fighting anybody. But if it's Takam, really would need it to be a final eliminator. No, next he's got a 10-round fight in April. Maybe June time if it was Takam. But Takam picked up an injury himself last night, so really. But if it were Takam, I think Martin would be taking care of Takam quite comfortably.
Oh, definitely, mate. Well, Tony Yoka was looking like he was on fire before the Bakole fight, and Bakole just absolutely destroyed him. Another point I'd just like to ask you about is what did you make of the scoring last night? Because Takam seemed to win quite clearly, and when Bakole fought Yoka, he won every single round and dropped him twice, and only had it the majority.
I know one judge gave it a draw. Actually, one judge gave it a draw. Martin versus Yoka, and the other two I think only had him winning by 2 or 3 rounds, which is scandalous. And why these things aren't investigated by, well, in Martin's case against Yoka and last night, the French Boxing Federation. Why that's not investigated is beyond me. I mean, even I think it was. Andy Clark last night said it's the worst decision, worst scoring that he's ever seen. Now, that's a statement because he's done thousands of fights, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I remember when I watched the Bakole fight with Bakole's last fight with Yoka, and for me personally, that was one of the worst. I know Bakole won, so there wasn't a big deal made out of it, but it was one of the worst scorecards I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it was ridiculous, but there should be a big deal made of it. Even though we won, we got the result, and it was a very good performance. Something like things like that shouldn't be happening in boxing. Imagine. Can you imagine Martin would have lost that fight with a performance like that? That could destroy somebody. That could destroy somebody.
You're right, mate, and as well, it turns away fans from the sport. So I've seen it recently. You said in an interview that Martin has signed a deal with Sky. How do you think this is going to benefit his career, Billy?
Well, obviously, Sky's the biggest platform in the world. It's massive, and I mean you've got a juggernaut like that behind you. You know it can only project your career in one direction, up the way. So, there's been so much talk. I mean, it's only got announced maybe 2 weeks ago, and he's had a lot of publicity. His profiles went through the roof now, and that's what he's needed because it's only been really him and I for the last 4.5 years. Me beating the drum about him. Now people are sitting up and taking notice. When Alexander and Usyk's manager tells the promoter that Martin is by far the best fighter out with Usyk and Fury, then people sit up and take notice, don't they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories behind the scenes about Martin Bakole sparring. I've heard. I mean, I know a local fighter called Steve Robinson. I know he's been up to spar him, and I've heard some of the stories he's told me about what he's apparently done with other world class boxers, and it sounds like there's a reason nobody wants to fight him.
Big Steve came up and done some rounds with us a few years back, and it benefited. It was for the benefit of Steve, gain some experience. But a nice big guy, so
Jamie Boyle from
probably.
War Cry Publishing, by the way, is watching. Says, "Well done on the weight you've lost, Billy. You look fantastic. Come on, the hoops."
Oh. It started off nice and it fell away. Thank you very much.
So, speaking of Steve Robinson, by the way, I've heard that his former opponent, Nick Campbell's joined your camp. How's he settling in, mate?
Aye, settling very well. I'd love that rematch down the line. Nicky basically will be took back to bare basics and worked on again. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. He's got obviously sparring Martin Bakole, so that'll bring him on leaps and bounds. And it already is. He's looking a bit better already.
Did you watch the fight, and what did you make of that fight?
Nicky he won in the fight quite easily, to be quite honestly, and then something that I told him not to do, because he phoned me the day of the fight. I told him, don't switch off with this guy, because the one thing you can do is hit. I said, and it can happen, any heavyweight, one punch changes a fight. And Big Stevie landed that left hook, and it was a right stoppage. Nicky thought it wasn't a right stoppage, but I've told him it was a right stoppage. Irrespective of it, 2 seconds to go or 2 minutes to go around, he was done.
Yeah, I mean, a lot was made of the Lee Wood stoppage recently, but I'm completely on your page with that one, Billy. That like one punch can change everything. So when a fighter's done, they're done. But speaking,
I'd rather a boxer had one less punch and never woke up in the hospital.
Definitely, Billy, or worse. But speaking of Steve Robinson, I've heard he's out abroad at the minute training with Alexander Usyk, sparring him for the penciled world title fight. What do you make of this with Usyk and Fury now being scheduled, Billy?
It's not scheduled yet.
Well, apparently agreed upon, sorry.
The figures are agreed. There's other things still to be agreed. It's not completely done yet.
Do you think that'll get agreed then, or do you think that's going to fizzle away, that one?
Well, I hope it gets agreed, because it's been way too long. These titles are all getting tied. They're all getting tied up. Hopefully, they can get fragmented after somebody wins the unification. Well, the WBA put an ultimatum out. They said if the fight's not made before the end of Friday night at midnight, then they were forcing Alexander Usyk to fight Daniel Dubois. Or if he never fought Daniel Dubois, he'd have probably been stripped, and then Martin would have fought Daniel Dubois for the vacant title.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, 1 hour later, we've got a deal done.
Yeah.
Is there a deal done? I don't know.
It seemed to take a long time to get anywhere, and then I think that's a fight that. What would you make of Dubois versus Usyk, and what would you think of Bakole with Dubois?
Martin will stop Daniel Dubois. Done it before, he'll do it again. And Alexander Usyk is a different level for Daniel. IQ wise, different level.
When you say that Martin's done it before, is that something what's happening in sparring? Right. Well, that'd be interesting, and I just hope to see Martin get his chance soon.
I'm not just saying that. Martin actually said last night on Sky that he done it, and he also stopped Alexander Usyk in sparring last year as well.
And I've heard from some good sources that Dubois managed to stop Joshua in sparring. But what do you think of Joshua's upcoming comeback fight, Billy?
I think it'll be a good fight, because that's a good opponent. That Jamel Franklin, he beat Dylan White, in my opinion.
I completely agree.
It's you get some right dodgy decisions on certain channels, shows. But I think it'll be a good fight, and I hope the hunger's still there for AJ, and it'll be quite apparent very, very early against this guy. If he's not got the hunger, which seems to be the case with Tony Yoka now, it'll be quite apparent. And then, I don't, I believe AJ should be stopping Franklin. So hopefully he does.
I think he should be, but Joshua should be stopping Franklin. But if he doesn't put a big dent in him in the first 6 rounds, I can see it being a hard night for Joshua.
It'll be a hard night anyway. Because Franklin's a good fighter. Franklin is a good fighter.
Moving on from some of the more serious boxing, like influencer boxing's been a big thing over the last few years, like with social media personalities and stuff. And I know that you were training Thor Bjornsson. A couple of lads I know actually went to your gym and sparred him, Marcus Apina and Michael Story. And they came back telling me good reviews about Thor, saying that he's really is a solid sort of fighter. Is there any news with him, or is he just leaving boxing alone now?
Well, he'll never get paid his $1 million for the Eddie Hall fight, which in turn I never get paid my money either. So he's walked away from boxing. I think he's went back to strongman. It's terrible because he outlaid a lot of money himself, for the camp and hotels, flights, etc., etc. It's terrible what people can get away with, the TV people. Terrible.
What was the story with that then? I can't believe that they've got away with that.
Well, the TV company got sued, and the promoters won the court case in America. Then they froze their bank accounts, ball accounts, and they removed all the money before.
2 seconds, Billy's streams just went dead for a minute. Hello, you all right, Billy? Sorry, we were just in the middle there.
I'm saying the promoter sued the TV company, won the court case hands down, and then I think they've also froze their bank accounts. But by the time they got to freeze their bank accounts, they'd removed their money, I think.
Well,
but that was a year ago. That was a year ago.
I never heard about all of that controversy. See, that wasn't as well publicised as it should have been. Really, the backlash from all of that.
Oh, it's disgusting. And I'm only presuming, but I'm presuming that Eddie Hall never get paid either. And he's no back with it coming forward. So I don't know why he's keeping his lips closed about it. You think he'd have been kicking up a stink about it as well?
You'd think so. And I mean, I find that strange because the fight was in Dubai, I think, and a lot of boxing's moving to the Middle East now because of the money there.
It was an American TV company that were filming it. Supposedly 50 million people watched that fight.
Yeah.
What I'm told is Segi TV shares went up 50% on the Monday after that fight.
And are they still an operating business now?
Of that, I don't know. I wouldn't think so. Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Because I remember there was some controversy as well a few months ago with Manuel Chor and Lucas Brown were supposed to fight in, I think it was Dubai again. And all the fighters flew out there, and then they didn't have money for the hotels or anything, and the whole show fell apart.
But that's a private. That's a personal promoter. That's a promoter, and they had to pay their own fares and all that. We had the same, but the promoter paid for Thor's fares to go to Dubai and paid his hotels. So the promoter of that show has done his conkers in as well.
Yeah,
which is very unfair.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame that Thor's turned away from boxing because like apparently he sounded like he was quite legit, and that the Martin Ford fight looked quite appealing. To be honest with you, I think that really would have captured the public imagination.
Well, I was approached a couple of months ago to ask so if he'd fight. What's his name? Martin Ford. I mean, Saul would smash Martin Ford to bits. I think.
Mm-hmm. I
Uh,
completely
and,
agree.
and a figure was mentioned to me, and I said the only way that I could foreseeably see this happen was if the money get put into an account, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
In fact, Thor's openly told people now he's going back to strongman, so it won't happen.
Uh-huh. What did you think of the influencer fight between Jake Paul and Tommy Fury and all the hype around it?
Well, it brought a lot. When was it 750,000 views on pay-per-view views, or even if it was 250,000, I've seen 750, I've seen
Uh-huh.
250. So say middle of the road, 500,000. That's a lot of views. It's a lot of money to
Uh-huh.
generate. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it brings eyes to boxing. That's all I can say because the level of boxing wasn't the best, was it?
To be fair, and I'll give them both the dues. Tommy Fury won easily, but it was only the
Um,
sort of level of boxing you'd expect to see on like a local unlicensed show, really.
well, maybe no unlicensed. Maybe a not what they were. Tommy's still a novice pro, but he got put down with a jab.
Uh-huh.
That's never a good sign. That is it.
No, no, no. I mean, I think it was literally. I think that was like an issue with bad footwork. But when I see unlicensed, I suppose
Well,
the fitness was a level above the unlicensed circuit, but the skills was only what you'd expect to see at the higher end of like the unlicensed scene, in my opinion.
or novice pros, and that's what they were.
Yeah.
Novice pros. But you're saying he's foot well then that that's created because you're a novice fighter and you've still got so much to learn.
Uh-huh.
Paid astronomical amounts of money. I'm a great believer in see pay-per-view. It should be for the best. The best versus the best.
I completely agree.
I mean, I have no objections to that being on the TV, but the only way they could pay them the money that they want is by doing it pay-per-view. So that has to be done, and people will pay for it.
Mm-hmm. It seems to be that it's got a massive like following, like influencer boxing right now, and I don't mind it when it's its own thing, but in that particular case, as it did bring eyeballs and it made an event and got the undercard fighters paid, but it also it's kind of maybe it's taking the attention away from more deserving fighters.
Well, of course it is. I mean, you could you could name you could name countless amount of fighters that will never earn that kind of money in their whole careers.
Mm.
99% of boxers will never make that kind of money that Tommy and the boy Paul have made in that one contest. A rematch.
Uh-huh.
They're
They'll
going to do it
probably
again.
make millions and millions again, and then there's like KSI and stuff. And I've watched interviews with Tommy Fury where he's talked about saying he wants to eventually win a world title, but the amount of money he's making against YouTubers, I can't see him ever wanting to go away from that sort of thing. So,
I mean, the figure that I read was they made 7 million. Whether that be the case or not, if you've got that 2 or 3 times, are you are you gonna are you really gonna fight? Get up at 6 in the morning and do your runs to fight on an 8 rounder and get 8 round money off at Queensbury rather than £7 million for fighting Joe Bloggs.
yeah, yeah. It makes it very hard to get motivated. One talking point about that, Billy, was the fact that the WBC would give Tommy Fury a ranking position in the top 40 for winning that. What do you think about that? And of course, the whole WBC and Conor Benn situation.
Well, simply put, and with the fullest respect to Tommy probably at light heavyweight isn't in the top 15 in Britain, right? So how can he possibly be in the top 40 in the world?
Mm-hmm. That's the perfect way of putting it. I mean, he's not even won an area title yet, and I think to be ranked in the top 40 in the world, you should have at least been in some 10-rounders and won some regional level titles.
Cal Froch put it perfectly when he said, somebody asked him, did you think he'd win the Central Area title? Now, how many Central Area champions in Britain, or no Central Area champions in Britain are in the top 40 in the world?
I never heard Paul say that.
And then he said, would they win that title? He says, it all depends who the champion is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a toss of the coin whether it's a good champion or not so good champion, whether they'd win it or not.
Uh-huh. I mean, that was probably
simply because of the level that Tommy's at. You know, we don't. You know, he's on his way up.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And it's not knocking Tommy. It's just I think it's more for me. It's more of a knock against the WBC and how much the money motivated rather than motivated by the integrity of the sport, mate.
Unfortunately, in boxing, nearly everybody's money orientated. That deal with money.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of money orientated and stuff, what were your thoughts and what are your thoughts about the ongoing saga with Conor Benn, Billy?
Well, you failed the drugs test twice. You've got to be held accountable for something. Something's wrong.
Uh-huh.
And the real state, you need. Listen, you failed the drugs test, mate. Uh-huh. It's the bottom line. You failed it not once but twice. And not only did he fail it the first time, but they told him that they had in his system. He's done it again with the same thing. It's not a good look, is it?
Uh-huh. Have you ever had any experience with drug users in the sports, and what's your thoughts about it?
Drug users?
Like, have you ever had one of your fighters come up against a steroid cheat or anything?
No. I've had a lot of my fighters have been tested.
But like, has any of your fighters' opponents ever been tested positive?
Not at my very no.
Because personally,
loads of my fighters have been tested. I mean, the drugs testing people can turn up at your door and you see if you're not in that house.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 1 hour to get there, or you fail your test.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 1 or 2 hours to get there.
Yeah,
and they can come to your door. I mean, Martin Bakole, he got his British Boxing Board of Control license on the Monday afternoon, and they were at my gym door on Tuesday morning.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I think that it should be strict like that because, it's a dangerous sport. And obviously, fighters can get seriously hurt.
You get caught taking drugs, ban you for life.
I completely agree. And what do you think with like Conor Benn? Like, do you think that he's going to box abroad? And what do you think about that? Do you think there should be like an international body doing something about it?
He's got to box abroad because he's handed in his British Boxing Board of Control license. So it's very easy. You don't know how easy it is to get a license in certain places. And the worst it is, he can still fight in Britain under that organisation's banner in the UK. And that in itself's wrong. Just for talking sake, if he went to Luxembourg, just for talking sake, he went to Luxembourg, and there's nothing to stop Eddie Hearn running a show, Matchroom, with Luxembourg Boxing Federation in the UK, and Connor's top of the bill.
Uh-huh.
Nothing to stop doing that whatsoever. In fact, I'm sure, I'm pretty sure it was Chisora versus what's his name, David Hay at Upton Park. Was a foreign organisation that ran it.
I've I've seen an interview with Frank Warren, and he said that you can't do that now because with Britain leaving the EU, you can't still fight in this country on you can't put a show on under a foreign license. That's what he said. So fighters with
Right.
foreign licenses can still box, but the show has to be sanctioned by the British Boxing Board of Control. I've heard
Well, maybe that is the case. I don't know, but
uh,
it's very easy. It's very easy for Connor to also go to America, Australia, anywhere like that.
mhm.
He'll take him in open hands, open arms, because Eddie will run shows there and generate revenue.
Do you think that he'll be a success if he boxes abroad though? Because I wouldn't have thought that he would sell as many tickets and be as big of a name overseas.
But is he a big name? Is he a big name?
Mm-hmm.
Who's he beat? Who has he beat? What live opponent has he beat? He's not won the British title. He's not won a. He's not won a British title. I'm
Uh-huh.
tra- I'm tra- I'm getting a boy coming here next week. I would put him in my corner bench tomorrow, and I know he'd beat him.
Uh-huh. Who is that fighter? Or can you not say?
I'll wait till he's here. I can't say yet,
But I look forward to seeing
but he's a
that.
top fighter.
Is that oh, I'm trying to think of the lad's name. I've got a few suspicions who it might be, but I'll not say anything. But I see. I think that's going back to what we were talking about earlier when you said, "Is Conor Ben a big name?" And my answer to that would be, yes, he is a big name. But who has he beaten? Nobody. He's been well matched against non-punchers, but
I mean,
commercially,
they're saying they want him to fight the biggest fights out there. With the
uh-huh,
fullest respect, Manny Pacquiao is a 44-year-old man that's been retired for
uh-huh,
2 years. How is that? How is that? It's a big name. Of course, he's a big name, but it's not a big
uh-huh,
fight because. And I wouldn't put it by Manny Pacquiao. Just school him.
uh-huh. I mean, I still think that there's a possibility that Pacquiao would school him, but at 44 years old, with Conor Ben failing a drugs
Exactly.
test and Pacquiao being out the ring for 2 years, I think that it's an absolute disgrace that the fight's even being talked about, and I think it's
My
put Eddie
sentiments
Hearn's
exactly.
reputation in tatters.
Yeah, it could well be. You're very close to the point.
I think it's, as you said before, in boxing, everybody seems to be motivated by money, and this situation just stinks to the high heavens. But I watched Liam Smith, and I don't know what your thoughts are, but Liam Smith mentioned how they're still talking about Eubank, but they're not mentioning Liam Smith's name. What do you make of all that, mate?
Liam Smith. Liam Smith will always beat Eubank. What? Why does Eddie Hearn not try to make the Liam Smith fight?
I know,
I'm sure.
like,
I'm sure Liam would take that at 11 stone 4 because that would suit Liam at 11 stone 4 much better than what it would have suited Chris Eubank because
uh-huh,
Liam's just came up for light middle,
uh-huh,
but he, as you know, there's a rematch clause there as well with Liam and Chris Eubank Jr.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
So that fight, I don't know how they're saying that Ben's saying that he wants to fight Eubank. Excuse me, you failed a drugs test. He's went
uh-huh,
and fought somebody else, a rematch clause. So he can't fight. Chris Eubank cannot fight anybody other than Chris Eubank next.
uh-huh. Definitely, and I know that he's contractually obliged to that, but I think it's a bad move for Eubank to go straight back into that. I think that it's just a terrible fight for him.
Well, in fairness, he had a lot on his mind, didn't he? He lost his brother, God forbid, last year. His
Mm-hmm,
father's had a lot of issues in the last 6 months.
mm-hmm,
He had that issue with the Ben fight. I mean,
mm-hmm,
bringing his body down to that weight was just disgusting. That's a disgusting request for Eddie Hearn to ask him to do that. To bring him away down to a weight that he's not been at for years and years. I mean, it's just beyond comprehension that can be
mm-hmm,
implemented in a contract.
mm-hmm.
Um, So, it's all wrong, in my opinion.
Well, even worse than that, Billy, is not only did he boil himself down to like 157, which he's never fought at as a pro, but I heard that the rehydration clause was £160 for the next
No,
day.
it was higher than that. It was higher than that. But irrespective, they shouldn't be putting a rehydration clause. We're talking about somebody's health here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why is that allowed in a contract? A rehydration clause? Fuck your rehydration clause.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a boxer's health to think of.
Yeah, it really is scary. Some of these, like
we've got a duty of care for our boxers.
mm-hmm.
Where's your duty of care there as a promoter? Oh, wait a minute. We know we're bringing you down to 157, which you've never ever done before. But after that, you're only allowed to put on, and you're stating £3. £3. You can drink a couple of pints of water, and the £3 will nearly be back on again. So
do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible that struggling to boil down so much to that weight at Eubank's age, about 32 now, affected him months later going forward into the Smith fight?
It'll affect him the rest of his career, his punch resistance.
Do you think?
I know.
Aye, because I had John the Iceman Scully, like the American trainer, on this channel, and he was talking about when he was in camp with Chad Dawson for the Andrea Ward fight, and he said that boiling down back to super middleweight after he'd been a light heavyweight for 10 years destroyed his career. He said he was never ever the same again.
Takes too much. You see it happening just with guys that are fighting at their normal weight. For talking sake, a lightweight 9 stone 9. You see how gaunt they are, how drawn they are, and there's some boxers think, "Oh, I'll just rehydrate and I'll just put weight back on the next day." That's not your body recovering properly. You should be fighting. I would always recommend to a boxer, box a slight the weight above. If you're struggling in any way, shape, or form, go up a weight, put muscle on, fuel yourself more, and be healthy. Being healthy is the most important thing. Boxing wise or non-boxing wise, be healthy first and foremost. If you're not healthy going in that ring, you're getting beat.
Definitely. I mean, you're getting tested in the ultimate way, aren't you, when you're in the boxing ring, and it's like you've got to be fit and healthy and strong, otherwise you're going to get hurt.
Some people do. Sorry.
Just a couple more questions, Billy. Before we wrap it up, I just wanted to know your thoughts about the fights in Newcastle last week. One of your former fighters, Lewis Ritson, lost to Ahara Davis, and Tommy Ward got the first defeat of his career.
I actually went down to support Lewis. Spoke to his father on the I think it was the Thursday before the fight. I was very confident they would beat Lewis, beat Ahara Davis, but the snap wasn't there quite there on, and I noticed it early doors. He wasn't throwing, in my opinion, enough right hands off the jab. His jab was wonderful as usual. It's like, I mean, his jab is like a fucking getting out with an ashtray.
It's like a piston, isn't it? It's really good.
He's a fucking great wee fighter. And the boy Ward, he just came up against a very, very good, powerful fighter. He was massive for the weight. I've never seen a guy at that weight as big as that. He took his top off and his back just went woof.
I mean, Tommy's one of my good friends, and I was speaking to his uncle on the way out. And funnily enough, I went to that fight to support Tommy and Lewis. And my friend used to help Tommy make the weight and stuff. He used to help him with the S&C. My friend who I went to the fight with, and he said watching Tommy at the scales, he just didn't feel he'd made the weight properly. And that's exactly what Tommy's uncle said on the way out when we were talking to him.
That's what I was going back on to the point that we talked about a minute or two ago. He struggled to make the weight. I think he failed the scales once or maybe twice. So he's obviously messed up in the weight somewhere. And look at the effect I mean, just speaking from a boxing perspective, the effect that the body shots had against Thomas Patrick Ward in that fight, they took the fight out of him, didn't they? Because there was no,
yeah, they did.
there was no core, there was no strength there in the body with hold those shots.
And I mean, that's struggling, not making the weight properly what he's used to making. Never mind making a weight that's a full 3 pounds below what he's ever made in his career, like at a catch weight, like what you said.
Like I said, Thomas is getting older. Everybody's got, so as you get older in boxing, anyway, as you're a boxer, you get heavier. So step up, move up in weight. I'm sure hopefully he continues boxing because he's a very, very skilled wee fighter. I love watching him. Hopefully he steps up in weight and he's much healthier going into the ring the next time.
Last up, Billy, and yeah, I completely agree with that about Tommy. But last up, Billy, I'd just like to ask. I know that you've decided to sign up for Bakole with Sky Sports and Ben Salome. What was the reasoning to choose to sign up with Sky rather than some of the other big name promoters who put offers out there?
We had another couple of offers from England. We had two offers for Europe. Well, one serious offer for Europe, and we had two from America. The American one, we could have been fighting in the UK, but it was three fights in 1 year, and then only 2 fights a year for the next 3 years. Which so in essence, it's 8 fights in 4 years. That's not enough. Martin's number one in the WBA, or number 2. He's top ranked WBA. He needs to be active. In my opinion, the platform of Sky, looking at the heavyweights they've got, Martin's by far the best heavyweight. I mean, I know they've got Joseph Parker. Martin would beat Joseph Parker. Fraser's still a novice pro. Hughie Fury's there. I mean, when Martin wins a world title, he'd gladly fight Joseph or Hughie. You know what I mean? We're friends with both of them. Very good friends with both of them. It's business, and we all know it's business. And we've been good enough to spar with each other. And we've always said, it's business. If we have to fight, we'll have to fight. And that's it. You know what I mean? We've got a big juggernaut, a platform behind us. Martin's profile was the only thing that was missing in his career. Now he's got, the last 2 weeks have been phenomenal for him. He's been on the Sky News thing 3 times. He's back in it tomorrow. He was in the Sky Studios doing punditry last night. He admitted that he stopped Daniel a couple of times in Usyk, which, you don't normally say that publicly, but it's out now, so it's done, unfortunately. But, Sky were the best ones. Sky were the best financially as well. Well, they were the best as well. It took a long time. We had a lot of negotiating to do, and I'm talking about quite a long time. And we eventually came to a great conclusion for both Sky and ourselves, and we're delighted with it. My fight next month.
There was a lot of talk about a fight with Deontay Wilder a while back, and I thought, just thinking about that Martin Bakole's natural style is a lot like what Fury did in the rematch. That's Bakole's natural style, and I just think he would have been all wrong for Wilder.
The first time I said to Martin, when there was a chat that Wilder was wanting to fight us, I said, "This is Wilder's talking about wanting to fight us." He said, "I will stop Wilder," and that was good enough for me. And I believe he would. He's very similar to Tyson and boxing ability. Very skilled, good puncher, high work rate. He beat Wilder. Wilder's very ferocious puncher. But you can deal against a ferocious puncher. Look at Daniel against Joe Joyce. Joe just went anti-clockwise the full fight and walked away for the right hand and kept jabbing nut off him, hitting him with the occasional rights, and he broke him. Martin will do it a different way though.
I think what Joe Joyce did to Dubois in that fight, not quite exactly the same, but was a little bit like how Bakole damaged Yoka, if that makes sense.
But Joe, if you watch the fight against Daniel, continually went anti-clockwise. That was. I mean, we sparred. I'm sure we sparred Joe a few weeks before that fight when Martin wasn't fit, and gave him a fantastic fight spar. It was a lot harder than what his fight with Daniel was.
Well, I can't wait to see Bakole on the Sky platform over the next few years and building his profile up in another world champion in your stable, Billy, to add to the few that you've had before.
I've also got a boy called Sultan Zubrek. He's super featherweight. He's in the top 10 of most of the organisations. Ferocious. What a fighter. Super featherweight. He was training with Angel Fernandez, and then Angel kind of got sidetracked with AJ, and he's up here. He's actually staying in my house. What a fighter! Honestly, southpaw, skilled, banger. He's got a lot.
And what's your plans with him then, Billy, and with TV wise stuff and opponents and stuff?
He's fighting a week on Friday on Channel 5. So you'll get a chance to see him. What a fighter! What a fighter!
Well, I'll look forward to that, and I'll look him up, Billy. And thanks a lot for your time today, mate. And have a nice Sunday, and take care, mate. Thank you, Billy.
All the best, mate. Are you attack? Are you a Newcastle United man?
Aye, I am, mate. Aye.
What one?
Who
do you support?
I support Newcastle United, but I don't think they're not looking too shabby at the minute. Like they're not doing too well at the minute. Like,
listen, that manager's worked wonders for you so far.
Oh, you definitely can't complain. They're doing 10 times better than you would have expected at the start of the season, but they're just in a little bit of a bad spell. That's all.
They'll come through that. I think Eddie Howe is the best English manager out there.
He really is doing brilliant, mate. I hope that these big Arab backers give him some more time. And don't try and get a big name European and just give Eddie Howe a little bit more time. It's just a shame that Man U didn't play in the cup final the way they did at Anfield. That would have been all right, you know what I mean?
I bet you're glad Mike Ashley's left Newcastle, eh?
Oh, mate, I think everybody in the region is,
definitely.
He was a shrewd businessman, but not a good football club owner.
No. Well, listen, pleasure talking to you, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Cheers, mate. The pleasure's all mine. Thank you, Billy. Take care, mate.
All the best. Bye.